If you are here for the New Dentist Committee Town Hall and the Family Planning Journey in Dentistry, you are in the right place. Welcome. This is an open conversation and everybody is welcome here. I'm Tara Lavick and I have the pleasure of working with the wonderful New Dentist Committee, who is putting together this series of town hall events. So I'm just doing the introductions here and we'll keep going on the slides. If they will work. There we go. Okay, so the usual reminders here. We set this up as a meeting and not a webinar so that we could interact with one another. So feel free to turn on your camera, and certainly given this topic this evening, if you have any appearances from little coworkers or fur babies, friendly toddlers, that is totally okay. We welcome that. We love children and pets here. We certainly encourage participation. Feel free to enter your information in the chat to say hello. Afterwards, we will be posting a link to this recording on our New Dentist Committee webpage, and that will be in YouTube. So just be aware we are recording. And we are in the process of having our CE reviewed. So once that is set, you will get an email with that 1 hour of CE there, which is excellent. So don't forget, when you do enter, just please mute so we don't hear everything happening in the background. Okay, and now we are going to kick it off with our awesome moderators to get the ball rolling. Go ahead, folks.
All right. Hi, everyone.
Dr. Kellie McGinley and Dr. Ghisalberti. Go ahead and get us started.
Yeah, excellent. Welcome, everyone. This is so exciting. We're pleased to host our 4th town hall tonight. Dr. Kellie McGinley. I'm a pediatric dentist in Reno, Nevada, and I represent District 14 on the New Dentist Committee. And I'm here with my colleague, Dr. Giancarlo Ghisalberti from New Jersey, and we are looking forward to talking about this topic that hits home for many of us, family planning.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Giancarlo, and tonight we wanted to address this topic because we know so many dentists are either considering starting their families, struggling with the decision on when to start a family, having difficulty getting pregnant, or trying to figure out a work-life balance with the little ones in the picture.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that. I have a 6-month-old baby at home, and I'm also a pediatric dentist in Reno. I'm a 50-50 partner in our pediatric practice, love kids, work with kids all the time, all day, every day. And I'm also on our cleft team here in Northern Nevada. So this topic hits right at home for me. So I definitely have personally had to learn how to manage raising a practice, and also as a young dentist, now a new family. So here we are talking about this for everyone, and there's my little one, my little girl Shay. So as many of us, we as dentists can be kind of have that type A personality. So if that's anyone like you, it's definitely me. I like to have control of things. I like to be organized, but that's not always possible when it comes to starting a family and raising kids. So it can quite be a challenge at times.
Yeah, Kelly, I'm sure many of the parents out there are all in the same boat as you. Personally, we are a bit earlier in our journey and don't have kids just yet, but my wife and I are excited to announce we are expecting a baby girl in November, which is very exciting. And as a matter of fact, something that we did earlier today, we made our first big baby purchase. We finally decided on which stroller and car seat we wanted, which was exciting.
Great.
So at tonight's, thank you. Yeah, we went with the Nuna, by the way.
Nice, perfect choice.
At tonight's town hall, we'll have the opportunity to learn about 4 different family planning journeys, as well as facilitate an open conversation about the challenges and joys of growing your family while growing your career as a dentist. We will also get to know one another. One of the great things about dentistry is that we have a great network that we can turn to for support and friendship as we're going through these experiences. And finally, we'll learn about the tools and resources available from the ADA and beyond to help us when we may be in need.
And before we hear from our wonderful guests this evening, let's find out a little bit more about our audience and the people who are here connecting with us tonight. So time for a Zoom poll. Melissa, would you launch that poll, please?
I have some votes coming through. I'm just going to give everyone a few more seconds.
Great.
Sounds good.
I'm excited to see where people are at in this
Yeah.
journey.
How are we looking, Melissa? Beautiful. So it looks like we have an interesting mix. We have many who already have children, expecting, and throughout different parts of the journey. Tonight, we're going to do our best to adjust our content to meet everyone's situation here tonight.
Yeah, we have a great group of people to introduce now. So can we please have the panelists share their name, location, practice setting, and briefly where you are at in your family journey. And thank you all for being here tonight. So
Sorry,
let's get
everybody,
started
my
with-
slides are stuck. So
It's the tornado.
I think so. I'll move them in a second.
Okay, great. So let's get started with Dr. Sean Aiken and Dr. Taylor-Hodge Aiken. Both, thank you so much for being here.
We are glad to be here. My name is Sean Aiken. I'm the new dentist committee representative for District 6. I have a solo practice in Louisville, Kentucky, and just brought on a classmate of mine last year. And Taylor and I welcomed our little girl, Charlotte, April of 2022. So she is 15 months, had her 15-month checkup today.
Yeah. And hey, everyone, I'm Taylor Aiken. I'm actually an OBGYN. So we're coming at this from like a two healthcare worker perspective. And please try not to grill me too much on some of the medical sides of this, but here to answer any questions you guys might have.
Thank you. Let's go to Dr. Colleen Greene.
Can you hear me okay, Kelly?
Yeah, it sounds great. Thank you.
Oh, great. Okay. I want to shout out the Aikens matching ensembles. This is like the family I want to be. And I don't even know if I'm in the same house with my family right now. But so I'm Colleen Greene. I'm a pediatric dentist in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This is where I did residency and I stayed on. So I'm there full time. And in the residency program in a hospital-based practice, and I currently serve as section chief in our medical staff organization. And I've got 2 kids, ages 6 and 5, and they are very eager to join this chat. And I told them absolutely not, but I may not have a choice later, so you may meet them later.
Wonderful. Thank you. And let's go to Dr. Nipa Thakkar.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm Nipa Thakkar. I'm a 2012 Temple grad, and I'm a general dentist in Westchester, Pennsylvania. I'm originally from Long Island, but I am officially a PA transplant now. So, yeah, I could tell you a little bit about my journey. My husband and I got married about 5.5 years ago. 4 years ago, we started through IVF, trying to start a family. That was a year after purchasing my practice and getting married. So it's been quite a whirlwind few years with a little bit of COVID thrown into the mix, and also my husband leaving from Pennsylvania to Florida for a 3-year fellowship. So you can imagine it's been a wild ride. So in that process, we've gone through, and I know we have a fantastic OBGYN to fill in the gaps, but we've gone through 2 egg retrieval cycles, 2 embryo transfers, and 2 miscarriages as a result. So that's sort of where we are right now. And I guess just to touch on what that's been like, and some of the highlights or key points to take home from that, that I've realized, I think that it's been very difficult being somebody who tries their best to do their best, to know that sometimes your best doesn't result in success. And that's been difficult and something that I think is a good life lesson for all of us. But also, it's also shown me that sharing the story and relying on your friends and your colleagues has been fantastic. So we chose not to keep it a secret. We chose not to keep any part of it private, because that's just not who I am as a person. I didn't do anything wrong, and so I figured if that's the moral of the story, and if this can help somebody else, then that's worth it. We have 2 amazing dogs that have kept us super happy and super busy through all of this. So if that's what's meant for us, then that's okay. And that's where we are. And we're just sort of in the process of reevaluating right now.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you very much. Let's go to Dr. Singh.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Amisha Singh, and before I have to continue, I do just want to echo Susan. Nipa is amazing. We are friends, and I'm really excited to be on this panel with all these amazing people. So again, my name is Dr. Singh. I am speaking to you from Denver, Colorado, which is where I was born and raised. It's where I went to dental school. It's where I have practiced for my entire career. I owned a private practice, a startup here in a suburb of Denver, and then I sold it right before the pandemic and ended up it being in academia. So I'm full-time faculty at the University of Colorado, which is my alma mater, and I am also the director of diversity and inclusion programming there. I love it. I've really found a home here, so that's really wonderful. As far as my family journey is concerned, I got married right before I started dental school, and I have a 9-year-old son, a 7-year-old son, and a 3-year-old daughter. So my hands are full. My 9-year-old, I actually had in the 3rd year of dental school. So I kind of mark how far removed I am from dental school by his age, which is terrifying because like, where did a decade almost go? So that's where I'm at. And I think the perspective I will bring, which is if you have answers, I am looking for them. Really, I'm just going to post some questions here, is that age-old concept of work-life balance. And so I look forward to kind of breaking that down and talking to you about my decade-long relationship with that term. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you all very much again for being here tonight, and also to our audience. So thank you. This time I'd like to invite anyone who'd like to share their information in the chat, please do so. And so now we have a couple of planned questions that we wanted to ask our panelists, and so we'll go through them, and then there'll be time at the end for some Q&A where our audience can ask some questions to any of the panelists that they choose, or just throw out questions that we can talk about. So I'd like to talk and throw some questions to the Dr. Aikens. I feel like spend the whole time just talking to you guys. Dr. Taylor Aiken, thank you so much for being here, talking to us dentists and dental families. So your time and information is so valuable to us. So thank you very much. And we'd love to hear your perspective on anything. So how do you two manage your schedules as a 2-doctor family? You know, a lot of us, my husband's also a dentist, so it can be kind of crazy, but how do you guys manage it? What can maybe an example be like? Do you plan things around your call schedule? Or what if you get it called in for an emergency? Or what if someone knocks their tooth out? What do you guys do?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's semi-organized chaos at all hours of the day and night.
We're still figuring it out. And I think it's okay to also normalize that perspective, is that it's fluid and it's ever changing and evolving. But we have a really good not Google Calendar, but shared Apple Calendar system that really helps us kind of plan our lives and know where we can expect the other person to be. So that hopefully if surprises come up, we can kind of know what to expect. I think Sean and I have always kind of had a really good communication around our work schedules and things of that nature. So if I'm on call, but he has something to do, I told him, you know, I expect if you want to do something while I'm on call, that you are right, make sure that somebody can watch Charlotte, and like, don't put that on me. I think when he is working and he has the same expectations, that I just don't want to add any stress to his plate when he's like on duty and at work. But
we also, you know, we're pretty intentional in where we decided to practice. Taylor's got a big family here in Louisville, and so we have dropped Charlotte on doorsteps before if we need to. I know not everyone has that luxury, but it was a big part of our kind of bigger plan of me buying a practice and Taylor working for a private group here in Louisville, is that sometimes you don't have the flexibility you have in some of the other systems. So having a good family support system that we can lean on to, and then as long as we communicate through ourselves and then through that system, usually things have worked out okay. Charlotte has also ended up at my office at days, nights, and weekends, so that's part of it too. But usually patients are pretty cool with that.
Yeah, she throws a cute smile in there, I bet, for them.
Well, cute.
Yeah. Well, great. And Dr. Taylor Aiken, what advice do you give to other professionals, other dentist moms that come in, other professionals that you have, that they're going through pregnancy, going through postpartum, and again, our type A personality that we some can have. I was one of those in pregnancy. What advice do you give?
And so I think you touched on that, and I think Dr. Thakkar touched on it too. Just a lot of us that work in these fields have these type A personalities. So we're really competitive, like with ourselves, with what we think societal expectations should be with, we have these two parts of us that we want to be a really amazing doctor or dentist, and we want to be a really amazing parent. And we want to be able to give 100% to each of those halves of ourselves. And that, I think sometimes that can be a setup for putting too much pressure and expectations on yourself. So I really try to talk to my patients about, you kind of have to just forgive yourself, give yourself grace. Remember that this whole thing is a learning experience, and just because it's natural doesn't mean it's instinctual. And which is, like Dr. Thakkar said, a huge learning experience for a lot of us, because we've been used to being, relatively successful throughout our lives. So that, and I just tell people, make sure you're ready for it, because once you decide that this is part of your journey, you never know when it might happen. And so being ready to roll with those kind of punches and making sure you have a great support system, whether it's family, chosen family, your coworkers. So yeah.
Yeah, it's hard for us to be the patient sometimes and take care of ourselves and our own bodies and our own wellness. So I hope I'm not the only one who feels like that.
Yeah.
Speaking of that too, what about postpartum recovery? What can we as dentists do to gain strength, both mentally and physically, to be able to return to our jobs, which can be such stressful, demanding, physically, and, what do you talk about with your patients?
Yeah. So with that, I kind of suggest trying to keep going with things throughout your pregnancy that kept you grounded and kept you active and healthy pre-pregnancy, because once you are making those things a priority and a habit for yourself, you will find it easier to make those things a habit and a priority for yourself even after delivery. And you will find that some of those like routines and rituals can really ground you and get you back to a place of feeling more recovered after delivery. I think we had kind of spoken about this a little bit earlier this week too, just the wish to kind of rush back to work. But I think giving yourself the time, because you never really know how postpartum may hit you. You may sail right through it. It may be more difficult. And truthfully, you're never going to get this time back. So while you have like your babies at your practice is your baby, just kind of taking that time for yourself to really recover and heal is important.
Yeah, absolutely. I told my doctor, I want to come back at 4 weeks. I have a practice to run. I have patients to see. No way can I come any longer than that. I have employees to pay. And he's like, you are crazy, Kelly. Sit back, relax. You need to spend time with your baby. Take at least 6 weeks. Are you telling that to your patients, who are coming in, especially the professionals? What conversation are you having?
Yes, absolutely. I think, and so we at the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, we're actually pushing for the postpartum period to be extended to 12 weeks, which means including insurance coverage out to 12 weeks, because we know that moms, so literally we're the only country in the world where there is not some sort of long-term standardized maternity leave for mothers. So we're really catching up with kind of those expectations. So I absolutely tell everyone, you might get back to some of your other things, but working out, regular day-to-day activities, but just take that time before rushing back into work. So I pretty much tell everyone to give it that full 6 weeks. But I'm a huge proponent of kind of standardizing and even extending maternity leaves.
Oh, great. Thank you. I wish we could have just a full town hall just to talk to you. So maybe in the future. Dr. Sean Aiken, what advice do you have to give to other dad dentists out there? I know that can be challenging and, being a partner, but what ways do you support your partner and then still run your practice?
Yeah, and it's tough because I am your prototypical type A, want hands-on at all times kind of person. And so it was really tough for me to kind of figure out how that was going to work because my practice was only about a year and a half old when we had Charlotte. But I think some of it comes down to perspective. My journey was nice in that I hired a classmate of mine right before Charlotte was born. So I took a full 3 weeks and stepped away and really didn't even think about my practice. And I will do that again for our next kid because it was just such an incredible time. As a 2-doctor couple, I think that's the most consecutive time Taylor and I have spent together in 12 years.
Yeah.
And so it was good for us too. And so I think, sometimes we think that our jobs run our lives and like, how could they function without us? And it was pretty humbling to know that like, oh, my office is actually fine without me. And I think there's a lot too. I know the new dentist committee, we've floated this idea of trying to find some sort of database for doctors that want to cover for some of those solo docs, because I know it's not as easy to walk away if it's just you. But I like Taylor was saying, I don't think you'll ever regret the time you spend with your partner and your family. And life will happen. Like, patients will get coverage and, network, find your organized dentistry folks in your town and have them help you out. But for me, again, I couldn't have spent enough time at home.
And I'd like to give him a shout out because he's been supporting me throughout. He was used to kind of carrying the bulk and the load throughout my residency, just like as he said, because I was busy and I didn't have a lot of time. And so he was kind of prepared to have to shoulder some of the responsibilities of helping out once Charlotte got here too. So I'm really thankful for that.
I change a mean diaper and I do a great bedtime routine. Pretty 10 out of 10 there, honestly.
Perfect.
All right.
Awesome. We'll throw that into the next town hall too, how to do that. No, thank you for that advice. That is just wonderful. Absolutely great. Thank you both very much. And I'm kind of peeking in the chat here. I love all that's going on. So thank you guys. It's so great to kind of meet everyone and what people are doing in their families. So thank you guys for chatting it up.
Yes, thank you guys so much. Next, we'd like to hear from Dr. Greene. Dr. Greene, do you mind telling us a little bit more about your journey?
Sure, absolutely. I am paranoid about audio. Can you hear me?
We hear you great.
Okay, great. So I will try to keep to the 5 minutes, and I will, after I'm chatting, I'll put my contact information in the chat as well. I really welcome talking about anything. I can tell you my husband and I, as of next Wednesday, will have been married 15 years, which is wild. And we're from the same hometown. We went to the same elementary school. There's nothing really unusual about the family we planned in advance of trying to start a family. So we were aiming for a very average performance, a couple kids. In my family, getting pregnant was a very common experience for women, whether they were ready or not. I never imagined we would have fertility issues. And advice that I received from a friend in medical school side where I went to dental school was, hey, people tell you start testing y'all, test your issues after 12 months. And that's ridiculous. And Taylor, you may say, no, that might be real. I don't know if it's real, but I'm so glad we explored the possibilities of male infertility early, because a friend just said it's cheap and easy. Send him to get tested. Women do too much. Women try and carry everything. So on a fluke, we weren't pregnant after 6 months of trying, which was surprising to us. And we weren't devastated. I thought we had years to figure this out, but we learned that we'd be unable to have our own children, even through IVF, which was shocking. And we definitely cried for, a couple days, and we did nothing for 6 months at all. And then we thought about all the options. I'm sure I'm still not even aware of all the options, but I learned that I had friends going through stuff I'd never even heard of, like embryo adoption. So implanting other couples' fertilized embryos. And I thought, I don't know about that. And like donor cells, and the clinic that I work in takes care of thousands of children who are experiencing out-of-home care, which is another way to describe foster care. And I found myself kind of curious about the process. I did not really think we were an appropriate couple to become foster parents because we work too much. I was like, I'm not willing to cut back all the way. And those kids need so much. However, the licensure cycle to become a foster parent was, it became more and more compelling to us. Hey, it's a 2-year commitment. Let's try and like be of service for 2 years. And if there's no lead on a child who really needs permanency through our home, then let's consider other adoption. We didn't really know what the other options were, but private adoption seemed wildly expensive. It seemed, I will tell you, if you're not familiar with the data, that international adoption, when it's, you know, let's pretend we're all the same demographic, it was like 4 times as common in the 1990s as it is now. There are many reasons why international adoption, there's been a 75% reduction in available infant supply, which is really due to healthy, growing middle-class economies in some countries and political disputes truly in other countries between the US. So anyway, we in foster care, I would characterize our journey that maybe we were like really fertile foster parents, even though that sounds crazy, but within 2 years, 2 children had been placed with us and their adoptions occurred within a year, which is an unusual pace. It's commonly 3 to 5 years before permanency. We are in open adoptions with our kids' families, and that's been a really huge gift, really unexpected. And they are great friends and mortal enemies at points. But yeah, this is just not what I expected at all. And the kids would love to tell you more. Just kidding. They're so crazy. They would ruin this vibe. But no, they're wonderful. I can't believe truly, like, again, I guess normalizing like some of the shock in the experience of growing your family. We do not live near family. We rely on daycare, and some weeks we say we would sign up for like 7 days a week. But we both do work full time. I work for an institution, not a private office, and I'm happy to answer any questions about that. And again, I'll throw my contact info in the box.
Thank you, Dr. Ian. So we do have a couple of questions about that. Were you open with your boss and/or team during your decision to foster children? And did you take any time off, as well as did you get any paternal time or any paternal leave?
Yeah, so we did let our employers know that we were in the process of getting placement for foster care. So we were pretty open about that, felt like no problem doing so. Technically, in the state of Wisconsin, you can get 6 weeks FMLA just for the placement of a child in foster care. And however, Dominic was placed with us on a Friday, and I did go back to work on Monday because my husband's company was more flexible. I think he was really interested in the summer off, and I think they would look back. My husband and the summer he spent with our then baby son, who we thought could go back with a relative. So foster care, I'd love to talk in more length. Really, the goal is family reunification Wednesdays. So we didn't know it was going to be permanent. But John took the summer off, then started daycare in August. And then when the second kid rolled around, and any parent here who's gone from 1 to 2 kids can relate, John was like, I'll take 6 weeks off. And then like 5 days after having 2 kids at home, he was like, let's explore some options sooner for starting childcare. So we were very open with it. Upon adoption, even though we were like very much a unified family, I did take 6 weeks off so happily, and we just had a really nice time because we had that option. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you. And we have one last question. For others who may be considering the fostering or adoption pathway, do you have any resources that you can share, or maybe any specific resources related to being a dentist and exploring that pathway?
Yeah, so it is very, very, very much, it's not only a state by state process, but rather it's actually commonly led at the county level, which is wild. So if we move just across county lines during the time that our children's cases were still open before permanency or before adoption, it would have been a whole new set of parameters. There are federal specifications meant to guide the court process at the county level, but I would say I honestly think connecting with foster parents, and I will tell you, it's a very, very tough journey. It's like your median experience in foster care is dealing with a lot of trauma. Adoption is trauma, and that's at its best. And of course, I mean, childbirth is pretty traumatic as well for many who've experienced it, which hasn't been my journey, but it's a really heavy process, and it's also very joyful. And I thought we were not going to be good fits for it, but I'm glad that we decided to take the plunge. So if you're just even curious about it, I really think there's Facebook groups, local adoption coalitions. So that's the phrase I would suggest looking up in, type into Google your county and adoption coalition. You will probably find some really perfect, like customized resources for your area.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Greene. I see some great conversation going on in the chat. We're going to circle back to the questions once we get through the panelists, and we'll take that first, Melissa's first question during the Q&A.
Perfect. Thank you. Dr. Thakkar, we're going to go over to you, Dr. Nipa Thakkar. You told us about your story, your journey a little bit. Feel free to touch on that anymore, but what else could you say to other dentists who may be dealing with this? And, your advice already has been so great, and we'd love to hear more.
Sure. Yeah. So I think I'm a private practice owner, and I'll have to tell you that a lot of these steps in the process of in vitro fertilization are painful and uncomfortable and time consuming. And so I'm a solo practice owner. That was difficult to navigate what that would look like. Also, not all of this can be scheduled. This relies on a different clock than what Dentrix shows you. So sometimes you have a full schedule and you get a call that morning saying, today's the day, we'll see you at the hospital in 3 hours. And you have to figure out how to explain that and how to maneuver. Also for staff, it's a roller coaster, right? So they're not sure what that's going to look like and how long the process is going to take, and whether it's going to be a good day the next day or a bad one, and what your mood's going to be. So it's just been interesting to navigate. Some of it's been extremely joyful because I've been able to see my team at work really rally around this like core purpose. Like, we're all trying to do this, and we all want to, we want to make this a wonderful thing. And then some of it's been a little bit less than that, like overhearing, for example, a staff member saying like, oh, this is so annoying. I can't believe she's still trying, come on. And I get that. I do. And then it's about having serious heart-to-heart conversations, indicating, hey, you wonderful women had the chance to be moms, and your process was easy, and I'm thankful for that, and I have my own process. So I think that just that honesty and knowing that not everyone's going to receive what you're doing, and what you're doing is going to affect other people differently. So acknowledging that, I think, is really critical. Obviously, it's the same as if you were to, talk about maternity leave and things of that nature. It has a different bearing on if you're an associate or an employee versus if you own your practice. So navigating all of that is important. I think going back to, again, we didn't keep this a secret. We chose to share with friends and colleagues. And it's amazing how many people can commiserate, how many people understand, they've lived it, they've felt it, they've breathed the same air. And they're here for you. And looking back now, they can say, hey, I know you're going to be uncomfortable after this procedure, so I'm going to cover your hygiene checks today. And I didn't even have to ask. I didn't even know how uncomfortable I was going to be. But the people who could relate knew that they needed to step in. So I think that, rallying around and recognizing you have a community, to me, that was key. Of course, some people are more private than that and feel that the journey is a personal one. And if that is what you need, I still recommend you find, your core group, right? Your people that you can say, hey, listen, maybe tomorrow is not going to be a good day. And if that's what's happening, I'm here. So I will tell you that. And, just really aligning with what Colleen was saying a little bit earlier to go into the fertility process for us. I knew this was going to be an issue for us. I'm a cystic fibrosis carrier. My husband is as well. We have a really high chance of genetic issues. And so IVF was the correct route for us. After knowing that, I'm glad that we followed that we decided again on a whim to get genetically tested. Highly recommend. I think it's a great idea. It was literally $100. I mean, it was the best thing we could have done for ourselves to figure out, wait, here, we have some issues that we need to tackle head on. So that was the reason that we chose to start that process. And I will say that, it's up and down and all the way around, and that's okay. And where we are now, like I indicated before, is we're reassessing and trying to figure out if this is something that we want to try for a couple of more times. So we're lucky that we have 3 healthy embryos somewhere in this universe if we wanted to. And that's good. But right now we're in the process of looking into short-term immigrant foster care, which is foster care for displaced, illegally transported children and their families that are often related to Central and South American drug cartels and things of that nature. So these are just little kids who need some help, and it's a 6-month commitment. So like Colleen said, she was giving herself a 2-year grace, and I think we're giving ourselves just a little bit of grace here with 6 months to figure out what our path should be. In the process, we'll call this one a family, and that's okay too.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for being so open and vulnerable to this discussion. I don't know about the audience, but I have learned a lot just in the couple minutes hearing about your story and your journey and the mental and physical challenges that you've gone through. So we really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and such a great information for us. Thank you.
Sorry about that. So we'll go ahead and ask Dr. Singh a few questions. Our first question is, dental school was, I think, difficult enough for all of us. I'd love to know what it was like starting your family in dental school and how you handled that.
Yeah. So, so my husband and I had been married for about 3 years at the time, and I just felt like it was the right time. And I agree with you. Like, I'm super type A. I was very stressed out during dental school. It was probably the most stressful thing I've done. You can pay me to do it again. But in the middle of it, honestly, getting pregnant and having our son was one of the biggest blessings that I could have asked for. And the reason is that it really changed my perspective. I think, like most people will tell you, that every pregnancy changes you. I love all of my kids, but my first made me a mother, and that was a very big transition for me. I became a whole nother person the second that I had him. And so, in dental school, having this situation of like, oh God, the denture isn't seating, or oh my God, I'm gonna have to re-impress this crown. All of those it away, because I realized that like my primary objective was to be a home for this child and to create peace and nourish my body. And like it was honestly probably the first time in my life where like my health was prioritized, because all of a sudden it wasn't a selfish thing. I was doing it for this child growing inside of me. And so I always, I often joke with Nathan that he was my biggest blessing in dental school, because I don't know if I would have survived the stress like tornado without him.
Thank you. I applaud you so much for that. Second, I know you're a wellness ambassador. Can you talk a little bit more about what that means, and how might wellness play a part in pregnancy and parenthood and the struggles that come along with it?
Yeah, so I'll start by telling you what the wellness ambassadors are. So in the House of Delegates 2 years, I want to say 2 years ago, there was a resolution that came about. And from there, we have created the wellness ambassadors, which is essentially a group of people that come together from across the country. We meet on a monthly basis, and we just share ideas, and we have projects that we do. And essentially what we're trying to do is create initiatives for wellness that are really throughout all of the states. And so I encourage you to look more into it. I encourage you to see if there is a colleague of yours who's already representing your state. And if so, reach out to them. They have some projects going. And if not, we are, our new cohort is starting in September, but we will be continuing to take newer cohorts on. So that's my spiel for wellness ambassadors. Wellness is, I don't think I ever thought about wellness as much as I started to after I got pregnant and then when I became a mother. And I think one huge piece of parenthood is that your identity stops being just your identity, and all of a sudden it's really intricately involved with these other humans, right? I often think about like Nidhan, Nihal, and Sunera, my 3 kids. It feels like they're organs of mine that like somehow came outside of my body and now they're running around outside in this awful world. And I walk into rooms and I'm like, how many different ways can this room kill this organ that I love so much that like is running outside? And as they're growing up, it's becoming even harder because I'm like, God, this organ doesn't even listen to me anymore, right? And especially as someone who values my career and like my identity of myself outside of parenthood in my career and other facets is also really important to me. There's this chapter of your life where those two blend together and you're like, who am I? And like, what's left? There's this metaphor that I read on Instagram that has stayed with me where they say that flamingos, after they have their babies, for a short amount of time, they like lose their pink because life is just like that in parenthood. And I remember reading this and I was like, oh my gosh, I've lost my pink. That's what I've done. But the good news is that the pink comes back. Supposedly, I don't know for humans, but it definitely comes back for flamingos. I'm still waiting for my pink to come back. How do I manage this thing of wellness? Like, how do I go about making sure that I am well as a person so that I can be well as a mother, so that I can raise well children? And the only analogy that has really worked for me is one that I'm about to share with you. And I hope it gives you some peace and something to grab onto. So we talk about work-life balance, right? And I think that there is some harm that's created by using that metaphor, because if you think about balance, like I think of this like teeter-totter where there's like work on one side and your family on one side. And if one side is winning, like by definition with this metaphor, the other side is losing, right? And that resonated with me. I was like, that's kind of how it feels. Like when I am at this panel that I'm not home yet, my kids are at home and they don't have their mom. My like oldest one is not feeling super great. And I know that he would love to have mommy at home, and I'm here. And so that part is losing. It doesn't matter how much I feel fulfilled right now. And then when I'm at home, there's this like gigantic inbox and all the things, and I should be doing this and the practice when I had it and all these things. And so I started thinking about this concept of alignment, because like I couldn't spend the rest of my life thinking that I was losing in every single capacity, doesn't matter where I was. So someone offered me this metaphor, which is live your life in seasons. So I think about my dental school, right? Like I was living the life of a dental student. All of a sudden I got that pink line on the stick and my season changed. I became a home for my kid and I lived my life that way. And he was born, and because it was dental school and I didn't really know any differently, I didn't follow the advice of my OB, and I handed my kid to my mom 2 weeks after he was born and went right back to dental school. And the second that I handed my kid to my mom, tears streaming down my face, I knew that another season had started. Like I needed to go back to dental school so that I could graduate on time. And so sometimes my seasons are like 5 minutes. Like in the morning, this morning, my son woke up way earlier than he should have. I was packing my my meal, like my lunchbox, and he said, "Mommy, can you just sit down and talk to me?" And I said, "You know what? I'm going to be 5 to 10 minutes late, but I'm starting a season of 5 minutes where I'm just going to enjoy this time with one of my children in the morning." And so sometimes my seasons can be months long, sometimes they can be weeks long, sometimes they can be days long. But when I started living my life in seasons, I realized that like right now I'm at this panel. I can't be a mother right now, but I can contribute in different ways. And I also do this for them. And so every season that I live is for them, but just in different ways.
Thank you so much, Dr. Singh. I think that was a great story, and that metaphor is certainly something I'm going to pass along to my wife.
Thanks.
So we're going to go into the open Q&A now. I'll pass it along to Kelly to get started.
Yeah, we're gonna start with some questions here. So feel free to put them in the chat. I'll try and pay attention, but if you have something on your mind, you can raise your hand on the Zoom and we can, kind of go back and forth, but we only have a limited time here. So I know that there was a question that came up in the chat and some people were kind of answering it here or there, but, as an associate, any paid time during maternity leave, what is expected? I mean, do even our panelists have any suggestions on that? As an owner, I did not get paid, but myself, but are there any associates that have out there or owners that have an associate? Sean, I don't know if your associate had a leave.
Yeah. So my associate is a W-2 associate. All of our W-2 employees have paid time off depending on how much time they've spent with our practice. So she will have some PTO because we do a base pay. Obviously, she won't be incentive paid because she's not producing, but it is important for us to have some level of pay for our employees while they're out on maternity leave. And I think, as a practice owner, we realize that now we're competing in the same space with a lot of the DSOs that are able to offer some of these benefits. So I'm actually really hopeful that private practices will start to be able to kind of offer those same things in order to retain talent and keep people with their head above water, because it's a tough time. So that's how we operate at my practice, at least.
Great, thank you. Any of our panelists have any suggestions for that?
I can throw out there, while I'm an employee in a large institutional practice, I just want to maybe call out for people who are not necessarily in the short term going to be pursuing private practice ownership. Just a shout out for, I work for a private children's hospital. It is so public health dentistry, but the market is so tight for dentists, and I'm not in a state that people are flocking to. And I know, Nipa, you've been a huge advocate for rural dentistry as lucrative. I'll just say, from a family planning perspective, if you're in a career transition or you're wondering what to do, places and my employer is called Children's Wisconsin, but they're so hungry for help. And whether you're the sole breadwinner in your household or the head of household financially, I think there's some advantages to the style of group practice that could be labeled academics or hospital dentistry or public health. And I think there's significantly less stress in this particular season of transitioning and growing a family. So a shout out for that advantage, which I enjoyed.
So I see our next question. It's a very personal question. Somebody who has gone through a significant journey, currently pregnant and on bed rest. And I think this might be a good question maybe for Taylor, but looking for advice, Dan's looking for advice on how to resume normal life after not working for 10+ months, or creative ways to survive the next 5 months.
Oh gosh, well, first, I'm sorry that, I read through your story, and I'm sorry about everything that you have gone through, but I'll be thinking about you throughout the rest of this pregnancy. Bed rest is a really, really tricky thing, because it's, and who you talk to depends on what their opinion of what bed rest is and what their definition of bed rest is. But it sounds like your doctor has made the decision that they just think at least work and caring for patients every day is too much of a stress on your mind and your body for your pregnancy. As far as getting back to normal life after 10+ months of not working, I don't know that I have a medical thing for that. I think, trying to stay involved in things like this, doing CME, you can kind of stay involved with evolving practice guidelines and stuff. Cause I remember, so I actually was fortunate enough to be off for about 5 months with our daughter. And I was nervous. I was graduating residency, transitioning into my practice. And I was like, am I going to remember how to do this stuff? So sometimes I'd be on leave like, and I also had to study for my boards, but you know, brushing up on what the current stuff was and just reminding myself like, yes, you've got this. It's kind of like riding a bike. As far as creative ways, I'm not the most creative person, but I know a lot of the, like we have patients admitted to the hospital for months on end before delivery sometimes. And a lot of them ended up taking up like arts and crafts, like knitting. And they would like knit hats for NICU babies that they would like bring in and donate. So I don't know if that's kind of a creative way to get some creative outlook, I guess.
Thank you for that, Dr. Aiken.
So the next question that I see, so it talks about, as a practice owner, are you eligible for disability insurance pay, FMLA? Yeah, Jared could answer things. Yeah, depending on your policy, I applied with my policy and they denied it because even though I had a C-section, they said there were no complications, everything was routine. No, so I did not get paid through my disability insurance, but I don't know if that's with different plans or not. Does anyone have any touch on that or have any experiences with that from our panelists?
I just have like a random tidbit of advice. My husband and I actually found out that we were pregnant for the first time because I applied for life insurance and they did a medical exam. And during the exam, it was determined that we were pregnant, which was great. And I'm sure my fertility doctor was super bummed that the news was not hers to give. But I was disqualified from life insurance because we were pregnant. So if you are considering one and then the other, I implore you to start with the life insurance policy. So I think that's really important. That's not related to this, but it's also very important.
Yeah, thank you. And the ADA has a lot of resources with insurances. So if you go to the insurance information page with the ADA, they do offer a lot of information in life insurance, disability insurance. And so please look into that. And as new dentist committee are heavily looking into that and offering advice as well along the way. So thank you for that information as well.
So I think we have time for one more question. And the question is, any ideas for how to manage longer wait times for appointments to patients due to maternity leave? Or would having a temp dentist to replace us during that time be better? My husband and I own our practice together with no associates and would both like to take time off when we start a family. If any of the panelists would like to touch on that.
I would love to say, hi, Emma. Thanks for the question. I know you. I want to say I want to encourage people who might think, I don't know a single person I could ask who is not otherwise so busy with their lives and practice. So I want to say that this past fall, after being in my current role for like about 10 years, my good friend Susan, who owns the most gorgeous pediatric dental office right downtown where I live, she's a neighbor, she's a great friend. She called me and she was like, I need you. And I'll take like 20 minutes a week from you if you could give me that. She's like, I feel terrible asking you this, but I work 4 days a week and historically have a childcare option for my day off. And she goes, could you even give like a couple of hours, like 3 times to cover some emergencies or issues for my patients? And I remember thinking, I can't believe you're asking me this. That's absurd. And of course I was like, let me think about it. And I just want to say it was a huge gift to have the opportunity to join her office for like a half dozen days for 6 hours apiece. I know it will like, not just like permanently kind of cement our friendship, but it was a huge gift to me in my career planning. And it was back to school. My kids did not miss me. They were busy. And I think you might end up developing awesome clinical relationships. I'm not saying you have a metropolitan area that's huge to grab from, but as somebody who was shocked I was asked, not that it was rude, but I just thought, what? I want to encourage you to ask for help because you might really, it might be a gain for your office and your network. And I can't believe I was asked, and I'm really glad. It clarified a lot for me. It was so much fun, and I was so pleased to help her on her maternity leave.
Great, thank you. Well, this has been so great. Thank you all so much. Panelists, do you have any closing comments? We'll go just one by one here. We'll start with the Aikens. Doctors Aikens, do you have any closing comments or any remarks?
I'm just glad that we were able to put this town hall on together. I think there's so many valuable information. There's so much valuable information here, and all of our journeys are totally different. And so my opinion versus Dr. Greene's opinion versus Dr. Singh's versus Dr. Tucker's are all going to be different, and they're all valid and they're all true. And so I'm really glad that we got all of those experiences out there, because what may have been easy for one of us may have been really difficult for another. And so I think the more we can come together as professionals and talk about this kind of stuff, the better off we're all going to be. So I appreciate that. It's also my first time I've been on a Zoom call with my wife. So it's kind of a cool experience for us. So that's pretty neat.
I also think it's important to know, like, family planning is a different look for everyone, as you've all seen tonight from everybody's stories. And sometimes family planning means deciding that not having children is the decision that you want to make too. So kind of, knowing your options there and all that type of stuff is also just, important as well. I also just left a message in the chat because somebody was asking about the genetic testing stuff that Dr. Tucker had touched upon. But my plug there was just that we routinely offer it at like annual exams as OB-GYNs. So if you're considering pregnancy at any point in time, but usually within the next 1 to 2 years, bring it up with your doctor and they should be easily able to order that and get it done for you.
Thank you. Dr. Greene? Oh, you're muted or.
Sorry.
There you go.
I think I fixed it. Okay. My closing comment, I wanted to highlight something that Dr. Alberti put in the chat with her contact information at ada.org. So when I was on the new dentist committee several years ago, I had an experience where a girlfriend of mine who's a periodontist was fired during her maternity leave, and she took her employer to court, which was a multi-year experience. And the case was thrown out because he said that she took a laptop home with her that was an inappropriate use of patient records. Like, such a travesty, so insane, unreal. And over conversations with her about everything that happened to her, a project I'm so proud of the ADA continuing is what Dr. Alberti put in the chat around. It was originally managing pregnancy guidelines, because when you go online and you put in pregnancy, practice of dentistry, half of the Google results are how to protect yourself from a pregnant employee and how to prescribe or how to do dental care on a pregnant patient. Nothing was about being the pregnant doctor. So we started a conversation and a project, and I'm still curious about this stuff, and I don't think I'll ever be pregnant, but I just want to highlight that as a resource moving forward, since that's the journey most of you will likely end up taking to grow your families. I know that my route was a very unusual one, but I'm really proud of that project that continues and grateful for the people working on it.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Dr. Tucker, any closing remarks?
No, all of these people are wonderful and have said amazing things. I guess really what I would just say, I was just kind of privately messaging Sam, one of our attendees, discussing bed rest. And I said, all right, well, do bed rest like a boss, and I guess that's the message. Whatever hand you're dealt, just own it. If this is where you are, then this is where you are. And if it's, infertility or adoption or fostering or not having children, that's okay. Just recognize that there are so many other things that are amazing and wonderful in this world. And there's no reason to feel sorry for yourself for too long, because other good things are coming. So that's the message.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Singh.
Hi, nothing else to add. I just want to say that it's been really amazing to share this space with all of you.
Yes, thank you all so much. Tara has a couple closing remarks, just a couple more minutes of your time, and some important information. And also the new dentist committee, we have a lot of events going on for SmileCon. So if you haven't signed up yet to go, please register. We'd love to see you. Please look up new dentist events and please come and meet us, and love to meet your families if you bring them, or just hang out. And we are so excited to see you at SmileCon too.
So I just wanted to mention about this important webinar coming up on perinatal and postpartum depression, supporting dental professional teams and families, as you can see here. And as we talked about, really glad to see the ADA offering this. It's coming up in August. Some really qualified people that will be here as presenters and moderators. So please take a look at that. And even if this time doesn't work for you, it's during the daytime, go ahead and register for it. So then you can access the link and the resources for this as it gets rolled out. So, and if one of my wonderful colleagues can put that in the chat, that would be great. And then just a couple other resources. I am getting a little lag on my slides. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, that didn't work. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, let me try again. Oh, there we go. Hooray. Okay, I think the tornado expired. The warnings expired. So far we are safe here in Chicago, which is excellent. But I'm still down in my basement in my unusual space. So thank you all for being patient with me. So 2 quick things I wanted to give some shout outs for. We have a lot of different resources, but a really great episode of Dental Soundbites with the wonderful Dr. Arnell Wright, who's on the new dentist committee, was on planning for the unexpected, and we'll throw that link in the chat as well. It covered just a lot of really useful information, some really practical things about the things you're talking about, like leave and parental leave, insurance issues, and dealing with things that you don't know what to think about, but maybe you should, and employment law, all that good stuff. And then just also to connect on the wellness webpage, if you go down and scroll down, there's that whole section on pregnancy. And that's what Dr. Alberti and Dr. Greene had brought up, that we're continuing to update that. But there's some cool stories there, as well as just helpful resources. So those are just 2 things I'll leave you with, as well as what was mentioned. We do have information from our insurance providers, which we can put that in the chat as well. So with that, I will go to our last, oh, well, this is cute. So just turning it over to our moderators to close it out for us this evening.
Yes, thank you, Tara. And thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you to our panelists and audience. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you all so much. Just echo what Kelly had said about the town hall that's going to be live in Orlando at SmileCon. We encourage all of you to come, get in contact with your NDC reps, get in contact with each other. This town hall that's going to be at SmileCon is going to be about mentorship. We're going to have a 1 hour for discussion and followed by a 30-minute networking session. So I hope to see all of you there. Thank you again.
And if you don't mind taking a moment to complete this survey, it really does help us. We have a great subcommittee that puts these all on, and we look at all these things. So please click on that QR code and get that survey into us so we can take a look at that. This was amazing. Thank you all, everybody.
And thank you, yes, on behalf of the new dentist committee, thank you for joining us tonight. Everyone be safe in tornado area, and hopefully we see you all at SmileCon.